Good morning. Welcome to Success in the West, broadcasting live out of Utah South Studios in St. George, Utah. Thank you for joining us here today. It is a beautiful day in St. George, Utah. The sun is shining, and it just can't be better. And we're so excited to be here in the studio with Susanna O'Brien. Did I get that right?
You got that.
She's with a really cool, amazing company, and we're excited to talk to her a little bit today about what this company is, what this company does. And it's called HearSee, and we've got the logo up here on the screen. Mm-hmm. So Susanna's here to talk about HearSee. And I tell you something, when I first heard about what this company does, this was actually really exciting to me. I have a podcast that I do every single morning, and I dedicated one about a month ago to talking about Louis Braille, because I'm always fascinated with the history of how people traditionally have worked on helping blind people access everything and have anyway. So I have this whole podcast that I did talking about this. So then when I heard about what you were coming in to talk about it today, I thought this is awesome.
Well, you're ahead of the general public. Most people think about accessibility and it's like wheelchairs or some sort of physical handicap. They don't usually think about visual impairments.
Well, right. But what's interesting is we are surrounded by Braille. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I was just noticing a couple days ago our bathroom in the front office. I don't know why I'd never noticed, but I was just sitting there looking at it. Of course, there's Braille right there on the on the little sign.
You don't notice it till you notice it.
Right. Yeah, and it's everywhere, and which helps obviously people that need that. But there's so many other things. You know, you've got things when you're walking across the street. You've got the sounds that get made to help people so that they can
navigate
that.
The little knobs on the corners.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. And so there's been a lot of things done to accommodate and help people that are visually impaired. But there's a whole nother area where we've kind of fallen short.
Exactly.
So far. And this is something that your company has stepped in to really help. And so anyway, before we get into it, I just want you to tell me a little bit about this company and what it does.
Of course.
Give us an overview.
Well, I'm so impressed that you've learned more about the Braille system and you've noticed these different accessibility features around you. Like I said, that's beyond a lot of the general public. The idea of losing our sight is almost scary. Mm-hmm. It's one of the senses that as I talk to people, they report they'd be the least comfortable going without. Not being able to see it, it feels like an almost unsurmountable impairment. And so a lot of times we kind of ignore it. And so it's good to raise that awareness. So I appreciate that you took the time to learn about it. That's something that I love to do in my position here, is to educate the general public about the fact that blindness exists. Mm-hmm. It's not uncommon. It's not awful, terrible. Blind people have the same skills and hobbies and interests and personalities that sighted people or others with challenges would have, and they want to be treated like respected individuals. So that's what we are here to do. As you mentioned, there are a lot of features that have been developed to help the blind community. The last frontier, if you would say, are indoors, however. We do have a Braille system that's been adopted by the Americans with Disability Act as a requirement for a lot of public spaces to include Braille on labels on doors, bathrooms, things like that. The problem is that as our world becomes more and more technologically advanced, the need to learn how to read Braille becomes smaller and smaller. We have apps now that someone can put on top of a menu and it will read the menu out loud. The menu doesn't have to be in Braille anymore. Not to mention the fact that a significant portion of blind and low vision individuals are in the aging population and are at a point where they're not technically able to learn this brand new language, this brand new communication system. Only 3% of the blind community is actually under the age of 18 and have been learning Braille since they were children.
Oh, no kidding. Interesting.
Yeah, you might be interested to know then that only 10% of the blind population can actually read Braille at all.
No
so you come
kidding.
into a public building and we think, we've done such a great job. We have Braille everywhere. But the reality is that someone comes into the building, they're going to feel around for where that label happens to be. Only 10% will be able to actually read it. And then they've been able to, decipher, this is office 103. Well, now what? there's no further sign that says turn left to get to office 104. I mean, maybe it's to the right, and who knows where the bathroom is. You're just going to kind of feel your way around. And that can be an almost demeaning way to live. You go into a building and everybody's watching you feel around the walls. There are a lot of good citizens out there who will try and help someone who's blind. They see someone feeling along the walls, maybe for a Braille label, or just looking generally confused, not sure where to go. And a sighted person might walk up to someone and kind of gently touch their arm or their elbow, or even grab in some cases. And a blind person's not expecting that. They don't want to be touched.
Yeah, no kidding.
They've got their own kind of system going to figure out where they are. And so we have developed these features that seem like life is much more easy, or much easier, much more accessible. And in a lot of ways they are, but not necessarily when you get inside. So that's where we come in. We've kind of bridged this last frontier and developed the world's first indoor navigation system that works similarly to GPS, Apple Maps, or Google Maps. When you're going somewhere new outside, you're going to get step-by-step instructions of where to turn. You're approaching a stoplight, turn right after the stop sign, those sorts of things. That ends when you get inside. So a blind person is able to follow walking instructions to get to a building. But if it's a place they've never been before, now where do they go? You get into a hospital, you get into an airport terminal, some of these really big, complicated buildings, and you're kind of left to just figure it out. And it's obtrusive, and it's kind of demeaning, and you're asking for help, and there's a loss of independence there. There's a loss of safety there.
That's a really interesting thing, because I spend a lot of time in airports, and imagining like getting around Las Vegas airport, trying to get from Terminal 1 to Terminal 3. No, I the last time I was in there, no joke, last week, I thought to myself, I need to, next time I'm in here, make a video showing people how to do this, because it is so hard figuring out how to get from one place to the other. It's not obvious, and they haven't gone out of their way to, and you go to Denver right now, especially with all the construction, that airport is just a nightmare trying to get around there. Imagining trying to get around there when you're visually impaired too.
Exactly.
That would be almost impossible, figuring out where to go. Anyway, so that's really interesting.
That's actually how it got started. As a matter of fact, is someone was traveling and realized how difficult it would be. One of our founding donors, we are a registered 501c3 nonprofit. So all the technology that we've developed, everything comes from philanthropists and committed individuals, dedicated to seeing this system resolved. One of our founding donors was traveling in a foreign country and going by train from one city to another. He enters this 3-story train center. Everything is in a different language, all of the signs, all of the notices, and he has no idea where to go. There's multiple platforms along multiple levels, and he has no idea what to do. And he can't ask anybody for help because they all speak a different language. This was about 5 years ago. This wasn't 20 years ago. I mean, Google Translate has existed, but it's not always helpful. And he felt really stuck and kind of came back to his partner. They were at the time developing similar technology and suggested that they pivot and gear this indoor navigation system toward the blind instead, recognizing that in that moment, he felt so impaired that it gave him an insight into how this population feels anytime they enter a new place.
Wow, that is really something. So tell me a little bit about this technology. Like, what is it that happens?
It is really, really cool. It's so special. So it's really a matter of, it's a 2-part system. We use RFID stickers. We call them tags. We use these tags. They're flat, and they can be customized with any level of information to say, this is a water fountain, or this is an office building, or this is a hallway, or this is a bathroom. We can make the stickers say whatever they want. The stickers are placed along any pathway and along any points of interest along the pathway. Office doors, statue, painting, anything that you want to describe to someone. And then that indoor map goes into our app. As we are placing the tags, we say in our app, these are the general walkways of this particular building. A blind person can search the app for that building and say, I want to go to office 204 inside the building. The second part is a walking cane that includes an antenna inside that reads the signal from the RFID tag. As the cane approaches whatever tag is nearby them, it will speak to through Bluetooth to a headset.
Awesome. Wow.
To tell them where they are and then how to get to the point that they've chosen in the map. So there's 2 different systems on the app that the blind person can choose. They can choose to go straight to a destination. So the tags will say, you've arrived at the lobby, turn left. They turn left, and the next one will say, go straight until there's a new direction. And they'll get point-by-point instructions based on where those tags are placed inside the building. Or they have the option to get directions plus points of interest. So they can hear exactly how to go, but if they pass a beautiful painting on the wall along the path, then it will say, approaching such and such painting by this artist from this year. It looks like this. It's this big. And so they can kind of experience the building while they're walking around it. And that counts for furniture that might be in their way. You know, maybe you enter a lobby, there's a giant couch in the center of the lobby. That's something of an obstruction. So maybe there's an RFID tag on that couch that says, approaching a couch, it's this wide, you know, walk 2 steps to the left to get around, something like that. Or there's a random wet floor sign. We can put a tag on the wet floor sign to warn somebody that there's this obstruction coming up. Or bathrooms, water fountains, trash cans, statues, paintings, anything even permanent along the way to help them experience the world more fully. So between the RFID tags and the walking cane, they can get any amount of information about the building they're in to feel more fully integrated into their community.
Boy, I'm sure people have said this before, but I could imagine me wanting something like that. I mean, seriously, because because how often have I just, and I don't have any issues like that really, but but walking into a building where I think, where the heck am I, and where am I supposed to go at this point? And then looking for signs and trying to, I mean, I just imagining somebody that can't see how difficult that is, because I know how tough it is. And just having something like that in my ear that was telling me, actually, you go this way, turn here, like, oh my gosh, how much that would help.
That would be an incredible future consideration for us. That's something that is kind of in the 5 or 10 year plan.
Yeah, I'm derailing the idea here, but that's amazing,
right.
though.
You're on the right path. We would love to partner with Apple Maps or Google Maps at some point to say, your outdoor instructions are fine. Let's bring it inside, because there are a number of buildings that are really complicated and everyone could benefit from that system. So for now, our focus is the blind and low vision community, but there are huge applications for this in the future.
Anyway, this is amazing. So as far as implementation and development, I mean, how old is this company?
So it's technically been around for 5 years.
Okay.
It took 2 years to pivot the original idea into something that empowers the blind. At that point, we developed a proof of concept, just writing down all the different features and all the ideas for the system. And we brought it to the blind community. We're working specifically with the president of the Utah chapter of the National Federation of the Blind. He has opened a lot of doors to other pockets of the blind community. And we said, this is our idea. Are you interested? Is this something that would actually help? And he's been an incredible resource ever since, and has brought us lots of feedback from the blind community about, this is what we want, this is what it should do, this is how we want it to sound, this is what features it needs, this is how the cane should be developed, this is how the app should sound. So much incredible feedback that we've been able to implement into this system. It then took the last 3 years to develop the technology. Once we had this concept that would actually work, once we had our proof of concept in place and approval and support from the blind community, because we don't want to do anything without their support and knowledge. So we've been working very closely with an engineering team who has spent the last 3 years developing the app and the technology that is inside the walking cane, the antenna and RFID interpreting system, as well as the customization of the RFID tags. So they've been working on all these systems simultaneously to now bring it to the public. We're at this really exciting moment where, after 2 years of conceptualizing, and 3 years of development, we're finally able to install it in buildings around the country.
Wow. I mean, so basically, you're finally getting to that phase right now where you go, all right, we're ready to start implementing this
That's
and putting
right.
it in places. Have we seen it put in any buildings yet, or where are we with that? And then and then the next question is, I'm just imagining. I mean, I walk into office buildings to visit with clients all the time. How would a building get involved with implementing something like this in their facility?
Yeah, that's a great point. Let's talk about that. So we are officially at the point to install it into public buildings. We've demoed a few buildings. The lab where our engineers are developing the system, their entire floor has been successfully mapped as they go through the points of development. We've also mapped, that's what we call it mapping, when we
Okay.
go into a building and chart the pathways and put the stickers in place and everything. We've also mapped the disability services for the blind and visually impaired office that's headquartered in Salt Lake. And we're working on a number of public buildings at this point. We are talking to Utah Tech University. We're talking to Dixie Tech and Southern Utah University, and even this incredible public garden in Michigan to test it at using it as an outdoor navigation system.
That's awesome.
Like a point of interest navigation system. So we're in works now to make sure that it gets implemented as quickly as possible. And in particular here in Southern Utah, this is obviously where our leadership is. This is where we call home, and we're so proud to be here. So we're trying
This
first
is
to
and this
implement
is
it
something
local.
really interesting that you said before we got started that was fascinating to me, because we're in St. George, Utah right now. Population, I don't know, what is it, 100,000 people or so, something like that. It's not
Something
a very
like
big
that.
place. It's a beautiful city. Both of us live. We were talking about that before too. We both live here on purpose, just because it's such a great place
On
to be.
purpose, yeah.
But it's a smaller community in the grand scheme of things, and yet this is the home for this company and this technology.
We're in such a great spot, kind of intellectually as well as physically. But we have the Tech Ridge tech community
Right.
is here, and St. George is home to a number of really incredible growing technology companies. And we've had incredible support from the community to be another one of those feathers. We're lucky that Utah in general and St. George in particular are really making an effort to develop the technology space in this industry. So while it's a small town, we really are excited about this new phase of development. And so with us being here, we're just another one of these incredible things coming out of St. George. But it's an opportunity to put this city on the map for something entirely new, which is accessibility services. We're lucky in Utah to have some incredibly committed individuals and organizations toward the betterment of society as a whole. We see people for who they are. We love people for who they are, and we support them for who they are. And this is just an opportunity to continue that path. We are giving St. George the opportunity, and these universities and other local sponsors and businesses the opportunity to be the very first businesses to install
Yeah, how
what
cool.
could be an ADA required accessibility platform. So let's show the world that as a tourist destination, we want your blind, we want your visually impaired. We welcome people of all challenges, of all ways of life, because we want everyone to enjoy being here.
That's it. Brings up an interesting question. Then, how many in the state of Utah, for example? I mean, how many people would this impact?
So many
directly?
more than you might think. There are 55,000 registered blind or low vision individuals just in Utah.
Okay.
There's 1.3 blind people in the United States as a whole. There are 7 million people who
1.3 million.
1.3 million.
So
Yes.
okay.
There are 7 million who have some type of visual disability. A lot of that is aided by lenses or glasses, but 1.3 million are certified blind. It's a population that affects more people than most diseases or cancers, and it's something that we're almost afraid to really acknowledge. So we're here to make sure that those individuals in Utah are seen,
Yeah,
and welcomed.
It's such a great thing because people don't appreciate that there's different levels of this too. Because the reason I mentioned earlier that I did a podcast about Louis Braille, and the reason I became fascinated with that because when I was a little kid, my eyes started deteriorating. Luckily, fortunately, they just got to a point where I would take my glasses off and I'm totally dysfunctional, but at least mine can be corrected. But I became interested because I was watching myself as my eyes were just deteriorating, getting worse and worse and worse. So I became, I started learning about this and about these people and what they were dealing with and the challenges. And there's so many more things. There's obviously people that are blind, but then you have all these other visual impairments where you just become where you can just barely function, even though you can see a little bit, you still have a hard time functioning. So the numbers are much bigger than people even realize.
Absolutely.
That need to deal with this kind of thing.
Absolutely. It's exactly like you said. There are different levels, of course. To be certified completely blind, you can still retain 10 to 20% of vision. It often comes in as highly peripheral or shadowy figures. It's a level of sight that's not really useful, to be honest. And so those individuals, as I've talked to them, still prefer to be qualified as blind because if they tell someone, I can still see some shadows, then that person assumes they're okay to just do whatever they need to do. And that's just not the case. So it's actually easier to say blind and then let that person live to the ability that they feel comfortable. Yeah, but I've had the pleasure of talking to some incredible blind people here in Utah, here in southern Utah and around St. George, who are such an inspiration at just living life to the fullest. People who have given me some incredible responses when I'll ask, where do you want this system installed? Where would you like to navigate completely independently? Things like that. Or what are some of the challenges that you've had? I am really loving this population who are proud to be who they are and are committed to this concept that blindness does not hold them back.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And then would you say it was 55,000 people?
Just in Utah.
And that's the other thing that's so important to remember. Utah is again, in the grand scheme of states, is a very low population state.
That's true.
Salt Lake is one. You got this fairly big city up there. Then you have St. George's. But it's a lot of. But you start getting back east, and these numbers and the people that it impacts just gets exponentially larger.
Hundreds of thousands of blind people in certain states.
Yes, exactly.
North Carolina, Texas, California, we're talking about up to 400,000 people in each of those places.
Right. So the point is, again, the number of people this impacts is so much more. When we don't interface with that every single day, we don't recognize the massive population that really does have to deal with this, because we become literally blind to it. We don't see it everywhere. And so we don't recognize how important something like this is for so many people.
Well, and if you do see a blind person, they will have a walking cane or perhaps a guide dog, and you think they're set. They have what they need. But that's only part of the solution. I mean, when you think about it, any environment you're in, it takes all of your senses to figure out what you're doing. And it's exhausting to control a guide dog, to control a walking cane, and pay attention to all the other things around you at the same time while trying to figure out where you're going and what you're doing. Yeah. It's exhausting and frustrating. And as I mentioned, potentially demeaning or dangerous. In fact, the National Federation of the Blind conducted a study that reports that up to 30% of blind people would choose to rarely leave their homes at all because it is so chaotic to go anywhere. And that's just a tragedy. We believe everyone deserves the right to experience their community and to feel empowered to be independent and enjoy life without concern for any disabilities. Yeah.
And with technology today, there's no reason why something like this shouldn't be implemented everywhere.
I appreciate that.
No, I mean that sincerely. And it's interesting too, because when you start talking about, we work with an audiology company where you have a lot of people that deal with hearing issues. And there's a lot of people as they lose their hearing, they don't like putting this thing in their ear because then it makes them look. And you go, everybody has things in their ears today. No, really, everywhere you go,
true.
people have things in their ears, so it doesn't even look unusual anymore. You kind of expect it. I go to the gym every morning, and everybody's got stuff in their ears, and it's just the way things are today. So it's a natural thing to go, hey, to create something like that, where you put that in, and then you're able to navigate something, and it actually is helping you get around.
Well, you touched on something really interesting, which is this concept of being conspicuous versus inconspicuous. This is true of people of a variety of levels of disability or challenges, that they don't want to be a spectacle. They want to blend in more or less. They want to be regarded as somebody in the general population. And there are a lot of people who will avoid using tools that make them stand out. And that is something that is apparent for the blind population, as well as, potentially a cochlear implant for somebody who is deaf, something like that. And so there are certain technologies that will help a blind person learn about the world around them, but it involves contraptions that are very visible, and it involves audio that's very visible and things like that, and that harm that concept of trying to blend in. Our system is entirely invisible. Aside from someone using a walking cane, the RFID stickers themselves can be hidden behind walls. They can be painted over. They can be installed behind wallpaper. No one needs to know they're there, and it's an opportunity for the blind community to try and just blend in and go about their business as much as possible.
Yeah, the conspicuous nature of this from what the person has to have, and then again, when you're implementing something like this in a building, the way you've described it, you wouldn't even know that it's there.
Exactly.
And yet it's still helping all these people.
Exactly. It's a way to help them. We are empowering the blind community to do even more than they're already comfortable doing, which is to navigate new buildings independently and safely. It's a right that a lot of people take for granted that we think they deserve.
So, okay, a couple more things then. How do people get this? This, like a lot of things, it requires money to implement.
Unfortunately, yes.
How do you guys operate with that? And then, anyway, just wanted to get to that point.
This is maybe one of the most important aspects of our work, which is the fact that it's something that the entire community can be a part of. We are a registered 501c3 nonprofit. Everything that we're able to accomplish is through the generosity of dedicated donors. We accept donations of all sizes. We consider anything from $1 on up to be a charitable partner, a local philanthropist, and we welcome people who are interested in this work. We are completely transparent, and we'll send out regular emails and updates about where exactly that money is going. We have an incredibly dedicated team of people who want this to work as quickly and effectively as possible. We have a website as well as various social media channels that will direct someone on ways to donate to the system and to the other technologies for the blind that we're trying to develop. It's called HearSee Mobility. It's like our two senses.
Okay.
Hear, HearSee. So if anyone is interested to Google HearSee or HearSee Mobility, you can find our Facebook page, our Instagram page, our LinkedIn account, as well as our website that will give you instructions on how to donate.
Okay, and so as we wrap this up, what is the website then, so we know how to get there?
HearSeeMobility.org.
HearSeeMobility.org, and that's where people can go and learn more, donate, and
absolutely, and see profiles of people that we've helped, of blind people who are interested in the system, things like that.
Okay, that's awesome. Susanna, thank you so much for being here. I love this. This is so fascinating.
Thank you.
So, all right, well, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
HearSee Mobility.
HearSeeMobility.org.
All right, thank you very much. All right, hey, thanks for joining us. We're going to be back here in just a couple minutes with our next guest, and thanks for being with us.
Years ago, I sent out a text message to several people that I know, and I asked the question, if your life is going poorly, what's one thing you can do to be happy? And with the exception of one person who said, buy a new pair of shoes, Everyone else said, do something for someone else. One of the ways that we give is with money. We write a check to charity. Charitable organizations around the world receive our money and they do good with that. Unfortunately, all too often, that creates a sense of entitlement. Let me explain what I mean by that. One of the largest problems in the world is access to fresh, clean water. It is a major worldwide crisis. Dozens and dozens of organizations exist solely to drill wells to solve that problem. Did you know that 60% of all wells that have been drilled in the last decade no longer are in service? The reason is the drill rig pulls up, it drills the well, they cap it off, they put a pump, and they drive away. The recipients of that well have had no part of that process. They have no idea what to do when that well breaks. The reason we created Koken Cares is to solve that problem. Koken is a Japanese word which means contribution. The giver and the receiver, they both need to contribute. So if we can pair the giver and the receiver, and both are contributing what they can, then when that well breaks, they know how to fix it. 100% of the wells that we have drilled in the last decade are still in service today. So a lot of people ask, how can I get involved? There's really 3 ways. Number 1, come with us. Come on a humanitarian trek. Experience what we do firsthand. But that can be a lot to ask. If you can't do that, then please contribute financially. Every well that we drill is $8,000. Every well we drill serves 1,000 to 2,000 people permanently, and we solve the water crisis for them for their lifetime. And then number 3 is just join the community. Go to kokencares.org, sign up, and that's where you'll receive updates, information, everything that you can do to contribute. I'm Steve Haycock, and I'm the founder of Koken Cares.
I think at Hearing and Balance Doctors, we understand that our patients deserve comprehensive care by a team that really cares for them.
A team of doctors, a team of audiology assistants that wants to see you do your very best. Not just one day at a time, but every single day.
We consider the care that we provide to be the gold standard in the whole industry. We are staffed entirely by doctors of audiology, who are the highest trained professionals to deal with issues of hearing loss, of ringing in the ears, of dizziness, of vertigo.
We specialize in anything involving the inner ear. And the inner ear comprises our balance organ, but it also has the auditory functions and how do we connect with people.
Hearing healthcare can be quite complex. Issues of balance, issues of hearing loss, issues of ringing in the ear can often be interconnected.
Easily would be 10 to 15% of our patients who came in for one thing leave having more comprehensive care.
People think they may just have a simple issue of hearing loss. There may be deeper issues at play.
When you say audiology, it literally says our name of our clinic, Hearing and Balance Doctors, and that's who we are.
And the team approach that we take in providing quality care, I believe, is second to none.
Hey there, welcome to Utah South Studios, the home of Thick and Mystic Media. I'm Robert John Hadfield. I want to invite you, yes you, to join me right here. Every single Tuesday from 10 to 11, we're going to do a live broadcast out of the studio here, and we'd like to invite you to join me here to talk about your business live broadcast out of the studio on the various social media platforms. The way to get involved with this is contact us, give us a phone call, message us, and let's get you on the calendar. It is absolutely free. The reason we're doing this is because by giving exposure to your company through this live show, we get exposure for the studio. Anyway, we look forward to talking to you. Thank you very much and have a fantastic day.
Christ heart chained to rhythm and blues, forgetting your name with every move. I'm broken, but all I wanna do is dance, dance through it, dance, dance through it. I was stuck running through emotions that you left behind. Put on that dress inside my closet that you never liked.
Where speed often takes precedence, there's a place where time slows down and dreams are crafted with care. This is our sanctuary of creation, where we don't just build camper vans. We build bonds that tie families together, journeys that are etched into the very fabric of time. The heart of our craftsmanship lies not only in the materials we use, but in the unity of purpose that defines us. Every curve, every surface, every detail is infused with our commitment to quality, not just because it's our job, but because we understand the value of memories made within these walls. Our mission is not just to build a vehicle, but to create an experience that transcends the ordinary, to design spaces that witness the growth of families. Every innovation we incorporate is a heartfelt tribute to the families who embrace life's adventures with a spirit of togetherness. Adventure Family Vans. Your van, your way, with your family.
Hey, welcome back to Success in the West, Utah South Studios, broadcasting live. We're in St. George, Utah, where it is absolutely beautiful outside. And we are starting to move into the season where things cool down a little bit. And one of the things that's happening as things cool down is there's going to be here in St. George, we just had the St. George Marathon. We've got the Senior Olympics that happen here. It's a very active, physically active community. And there's going to be a 4x4x48 event. If you've never heard of this before, David Goggins kind of made this thing popular. And what it is that every 4 hours, you run 4 miles for 48 hours. So you do this for 48 hours, and every 4 hours you run 4 miles. And this particular event is being it's being done by Coke and Cares, and they're doing this specifically for a family in Maui. And so they're calling this Miles for Maui, and it's to raise money for a family. The fires and things that took place, and they're doing this specifically for a family that lost their home. And so they're doing this 4x4x48 event. You can donate $48, and all this money goes to that family that lost their home. So if you want to learn more about it, go to the Coke and Cares Facebook page. You can go to cokeandcares.org just to learn more about Koken. It's a great organization that drills wells for people in Africa. But again, Coke and Cares on Facebook. You can learn more specifically about the 4x4x48 event that's happening on November 2nd here in St. George. Actually, it's in Santa Clara, isn't it? Isn't that where they're actually doing the actual event? Anyway, here in St. George and in southern Utah, St. George and surrounding community. And that's on November 2nd, and the running starts at 8 o'clock on November 2nd. But anyway, go to Coke and Cares on Facebook to learn more. All right, so I'm so excited because, again, as we are moving into the colder part of the year, although it never gets that cold in St. George. Exactly. We have somebody in here in the studio today. This is Nate, that is going to talk about St. George Christmas lights. He has a company where they actually put up lights. And I tell you, that's one of the funnest things about this time of year is when you start seeing the lights go up.
Yeah.
And we actually, lights are so awesome and they're so beautiful to put on your house. And you start wondering, why in the world do we only put them up for Christmas?
Right.
And actually, it wasn't long ago, we actually did one where we put some lights around the poles on the entryway of the house. Uh-huh. And you go, I'm not taking those down.
Right.
It just looks too cool.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, why do we take them down? So anyway, so you have a company where you actually put up lights you do a lot of things for families and homes, but you also do this for bigger picture thing for businesses as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit more about your company, what it is you do, the kind of things that you install.
Okay.
So
my company started 17 years ago. I was a student I like Dixie, the name of Dixie, but I was a student at Dixie, and Christmas was coming around, and I thought, I don't have any money for Christmas presents for my kids. I've got nothing. And my cousin approached me and said, well, I know how to put up Christmas lights if you want to try that. So I went to my counselor at the university and got a student loan, and instantly went and bought $3,000 worth of equipment.
Oh, that's awesome.
And had enough money for Christmas. And I thought, man, this will be some good Christmas money. And over the years, it's just grown and grown and grown. And eventually I stopped it from growing because it was growing too fast. And then I put, I just realized, why not just open this up? Just get it as big as it wants to get. I'll look for the employees every single year. I'll give them Christmas money. I'll fight to get everything that I can as fast as possible, as good as possible. So for 18 years, well, 17 years, I've been putting my hands on every single job to make sure that it's done with my quality. I've been making sure that when I walk away from a job, I know I can look the customer in the eye and say, yeah, I did your lights, and yeah, they look pretty good. Because, like you were just mentioning, when Christmas lights go up, for some reason, people just seem to be happier, right? Like,
yes, exactly.
The other day, I heard somebody saying, "Why are you starting Christmas so early? It's not even November." I thought, well, why not start it early?
Yeah.
It's the season that promotes the most happiness. Why not start it early? Why not go after it? Why not light things up? I mean, you feel good when you drive down a street and there's half the homes have lights just, blinking or shining or just out there. It just makes you feel better. So I'm super happy every single year to go out and put, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of bulbs up and just make them look good. So I love it.
So a lot of these, we think of Christmas lights traditionally as being things that, again, on a seasonal basis, we go out, we go up and kink, put the lights up, and then at the end of the thing, take it down. But there's been a trend for a while now to put the lights up permanently. Can you talk more about that?
Sure, yeah. So permanent lighting is something that I started quite a few years ago, and just didn't quite feel like the hardware was up to snuff. Didn't quite like it. So I personally stepped out of it. I do have a company that I recommend people go to because I've worked with their product. I know it works. But you've got this permanent versus holiday,
sure,
right? And the permanent is great. People love it. They can set it up for anything, set it up for your anniversary. So when you're driving home and you see that color pattern, you can turn around and go get whatever you forgot. Set it up for kids' birthdays. Set it up for everything. It's awesome. Set it up for security lighting. Great idea. But there's something special when you see the bulbs up on the house. You know that it's for a special purpose. It's for a special season. So when those bulbs go up on the roof line, you just feel a little bit more nostalgia for the way things used to be. And you lean a little bit more towards family and say, yeah, my parents used to put these bulbs up and I love it. And then when they come down, it's almost like a cleaning up. Everything just looks a little bit more crisp and a little more clean, and you're setting aside that special season. You've set it up for that season. You've taken it down for that season. It's had its purpose in your life. And then you can move on with the rest of your day knowing that, that was fun. That was really
cool.
And
it's interesting because you when you think about that, it's the bulbs and it's the colors. I was talking earlier about the things that we left in the around those pillars, and they were just white, which is actually a really cool look.
Yeah.
But then you have those the bulbs that have the red and the green and that kind of represent this particular season that we all share together.
Right.
So and then I mean, think about that. You go down here in St. George specifically. You go downtown, and they have them all around the trees down there. And I mean,
cool?
There is a feeling just in the community and in the world in general that is just different when we start putting those things up. So what is your process? What is it that your company specifically focuses on then? What is your specialty?
So my focus with every single customer is I want them to say, yeah, that was totally worth it. I'm so glad I did that. I want them to be able to flip the switch and smile. I don't want them to say, man, that Nate, he was really hard to work with, but the lights are up. Or, man, that Nate, I sure hope he comes back to take my lights down. I want them to have that total comfort every single time. I've got 98% of my customers come back every single year.
Wow.
And that's something that I fight for every single year. If there's a problem during the season, I go right back and fix it as soon as I possibly can. While I was driving away from my house, I noticed that one of my clips came off. I just put them up last weekend so I can get ahead of the wave a little bit. One of my clips is down, and it's on my head. All day long, I'll be thinking about that one clip. And that's how I think about customers' jobs. If I drive by and I see the house and I see a clip is down, I stop, I get out my ladders, and I go fix it. I want them to be able to be happy that they chose me. That is my focus, every single customer. If it's a company, let's say I do the Harmon's grocery stores roof lines. If I drive by those, which I do, quite often, especially when on 700 South, every single time I drive by there, I'm looking at every bulb. I'm like, oh, that one's crooked. And they'll see me up there at midnight. They'll see me at 1 a.m. sometimes fixing a light. I've had police called on me while working on commercial buildings that are empty because they think somebody's breaking into it. But I just see
that's hilarious.
that the lights don't look right. And it drives me nuts that one of my accounts doesn't look right. So I really want to make sure that every single person is happy when they look at those roof lines.
I wonder how many businesses realize the value that you gain from putting lights up, because you get to this time of year and it starts getting dark.
Yeah.
Between 4 and 5.
Yeah.
The lights are it's dim enough that you can have lights up.
Yeah.
And a lot of businesses are open long after it's dark.
Yeah.
And to not have something like that really basically is a welcoming element.
Yeah.
For a business. That just basically feels like home, it feels welcoming, it feels warm, it feels happy.
Yeah. And wouldn't you want your clients to walk in feeling just a little bit more comforted?
Absolutely.
Or walking out saying, the parking lot's just a little more lit. That's a little more comforting.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why people wouldn't want their customers to just feel welcome.
No, I mean, it's actually a great point. That's what I wonder how many companies actually really think about the fact that I mean, a lot of companies put a tree in their front lobby, but there's so much more you can do when you have that thing on the outside.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much availability of color now. So if you wanted to do a specific color, it's not that hard to find. They have light bulbs that actually change colors. So you could actually put them up and, do whatever you want with them and still have that bulb and set it up for that season and bring it down for that season.
It's a bulb so it looks like legit Christmas lights.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But the technology's changed a little bit, though.
Yeah.
With these bulbs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because to your point, you can, in some cases, and do you use that kind where you can actually assign
I can bring them in. Yep.
Okay.
So I can do anything that a customer wants. I can do it. I've done estimates on extremely large jobs where they're looking close to $60,000, $70,000 for their budget. And I've done jobs where the person hands me a $20 bill and says, "Thanks for hanging up my one strand of lights. I couldn't get that peak." So anything that the customer wants me to get, I can get it.
So I'm just picturing one of the great movies of all time is Christmas Vacation.
Oh yeah. How did they do that without LEDs? I don't get it. Those were all incandescent bulbs. They must have had the hugest rack of power supply to get that house lit.
No, that's the other thing that people don't realize. Once we've introduced LED bulbs, you actually get more for your for your wattage.
Yeah, yeah. It's like 50,000 lumen hours per LED bulb. That's a lot of light.
Yeah.
And they take 0.001.
And they just don't take that much energy.
Yeah, it's like 0.001 watts or something like that. I mean, it's nothing.
So the budget for keeping the lights on has dropped considerably.
Oh yeah,
because they don't use the power that they used to.
Yeah, you're talking LED. throughout a holiday season. By going LED, you're saving yourself a lot of money. And then also the old bulbs were made of glass.
Yeah, yeah.
So when guys like me come over and they're like, "I'm in a hurry, I accidentally break bulbs once in a while when they're made of glass, and I'm sweeping it up and I'm leaf blowing it and I'm trying to get it cleaned up. But with the LEDs, they're all made of plastic, so you don't have to worry about glass. If by some chance the lights fall off the roof, it's okay with LED. You just put them back up. They're good to go. They're extremely robust. They're not going to break. Whereas the older glass ones, they come down. Now I have to go and replace all
So
those.
let's talk about that for a second. If you have somebody that contacts you and says, well, for example, I have a big, massive box of lights in my garage, and I've got a house. I simply don't have realistically the bandwidth to get out and get on the ladder and make this happen.
Yeah.
Can that person contact you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you just use the bulbs that they've got sitting there, and then you figure out what to do with them.
So if you hand me a random box and you're saying, these are my lights, I can put them up, absolutely. It may be more cost efficient for labor if you purchase the lights from me and get some upgraded lights. If I put your lights up, which I have lots of clients that I do it for, depending on the lights, I may know that I'm going to come back. Like if they're icicle lights that are incandescent.
Okay, sure.
I know I'm coming back 5 or 6 times to fix those lights. Half the time, I'm just going to get a broom and smack them, and they start working. But I still have to drive out there and hit it with that broom in order to make it work, right? So
That's awesome.
I just need to look at what lights they are. That'll tell me how much trouble it's going to be. A lot of the times what's happening right now is customers have somebody else put their lights up and they don't come take them back down. I'm running into that more and more and more. And it makes me pretty dang frustrated because when I go set lights up, I've made a verbal agreement that I will take those lights back down. And you have paid me to take those lights back down. And then if I don't show up again, I'm now a liar. I have just said to you, I've got your money. I'm not taking your lights down. Deal with it. So then companies like mine start looking bad, right? The industry kind of gets a black eye. So I will typically come into those customers, take their lights down for free, just so that they'll use me the next year. I've done it dozens of times. Or if the lights are still up when it's Christmas light season, I'll show up, I'll just touch it up, put clips on it, test the bulbs, make sure they're working. That isn't free, right? Because I'm climbing your roof lines, fixing it up. But I want you for the next year and the next year and the next year. If you took them down and you've got this box of lights, but you don't have anybody to put them up, I just need to see the lights. I need to see what kind they are. And then that'll tell me, what I can do for you. Sometimes it really is better to just let them go.
Gotcha. Understood.
Let somebody else have those lights, start over, get some quality lights that are actually going to last you a while. I've seen other companies use really, really, really cheap lights that are only going to last 2 years. The insulation on them is already breaking down after 1 year. It's just not worth it. So it's best to just let those go, bite the bullet one more time to get some good ones. And then those good ones will last you 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, and so you answered my next question, which was the next example was going to be, hey, I want Christmas lights up, and I don't have anything at all.
Yeah.
And I need somebody to come over and just do it for me.
Right.
And so I'm guessing you have some sort of a scale in that world too, because there's probably people that I'm imagining there are people that want to put lights up and they have an idea what they want. Mm-hmm. And there's probably also people that would be more like me that would be, I want lights up and I don't even want to think about it. I just want somebody to put some lights up in my house so it looks like Christmas time and I don't want to be involved.
Yep.
So
I've got every client. I've got physicians that say, you know what? This is my wife's thing. Just do what she says, right? I've got other people that say, I want a red bulb at the top of every single peak with 2 green bulbs right next to it, every peak. I've got customers that say, Nate, do whatever you want. Just look and do. So every type of customer you can imagine. I have customers that stand outside and watch me the whole time and say, do you think you could do that a little tighter? Do you think you could loosen that up a little? It doesn't matter. Whatever you want, it's your house. And then the next year I'll give you a call and I'll say, hey, do you want me to do your lights again? And if you say, Nate, you're a bonehead, I don't ever want to see you again. That's fine. You have the lights in your garage. I'm not storing them. I'm not keeping them hostage. You've got them. And you can choose anybody in the world you want. other Christmas light companies that I've run into, they're holding your lights hostage. And if you say, you know what, so-and-so, I don't want you to do my lights anymore. They're like, okay, I'll let you know when I can get to your lights. And they just hold them in their shed. And then eventually you're like, all right, just put them up. I give up. And they've got you again. I'm not a hostage type personnel. You know, you keep your lights. You tell me if you want them up again. If you don't ever want to see my face again, that's fine. But according to the history, 98% of my customers say, yeah, Nate, come on back. We want to see you again.
And I'll tell you, what resonates with me on this whole topic is somebody else is up on that ladder.
Yeah.
and I'll tell you, so I came to this realization years ago because I was one of those guys that would always, for example, change my own oil in my car. Mm-hmm. I can change my own dang oil. Thank you very much.
Right.
You know, I know how to do it. I'm handy. I can handle my own car and my own oil. And then there was this one moment where I was out underneath the car, you know, dealing with it, the junk, and now I got to go dispose of it and all this stuff. When it occurred to me, you know what? There are people that do this.
Right.
What really, other than, I mean, why am I doing this?
Right.
Why am I changing my oil?
Yeah.
And this is one of those things. Why am I getting my ladder out, climbing up? I've got so many other things I could be doing with my time.
Yeah.
And I've got somebody here that puts up lights all the time. They know how to get them straight. They know how to run the lines so that they're done a certain way and everything looks clean and tight and nice. And instead of me kink going through the Christmas vacation hassle every single year.
Yeah. There is that realization, right? Like I had the same moment with the oil changing when I went, would I pay somebody $40 to change my oil? This was years ago, right? $40 doesn't cut it now, but would I pay somebody $40 to change my oil? I'm like, heck yeah.
Exactly.
Then why am I not paying somebody $40?
I've got other things that I should be doing with my time right now.
Right.
And for $40, that was exactly what happened to me.
Yeah. And then you get up on the roof and you're thinking, as you're on the roof, right? You're hitting that peak. You're like, would I pay somebody a couple $100 to just do everything for me? Up, down? Hell yeah, I would. Yeah.
Yeah, as you're doing this.
Yeah. And there's a couple of people that I've had conversations with where they say, Nate, I go to work for one day, and it pays for you to do my lights. A full day of work. If I fall off my roof or I get injured in any way doing my lights, that's more than one day of work. It's like, it makes sense. And some of these roofs that I go on, yeah, they're falling off. Though I was just on a roof yesterday. I was actually on the roof line for more than 5 hours because it was so steep and so slippery that every movement I made was very controlled, very precise. Up and down ladders, up and down. It was extremely controlled.
Because you're used to it and you're good at it and you've done it so much that...
Lots and lots of control. But it was all very slow. And there is no way that customer is going to set foot on his own roof. Not happening. He looks up at me every once in a while and just smiles and walks into his home, just knowing, Nate's got it.
No, that is the safety of it. And also, when I'm changing my own oil, there's this, now, what is I've got my torque. What is the setting for the thing? I mean, and then I've got to, what is the setting for the tightness? And I don't have to, I've got another guy that has the tools and the experience, and I know it's going to be done right. And it's not me, getting back to that thing and stretching it. And how do I make, when I've got somebody that does this all the time, I can feel very confident that everything's going to look nicer and be better than I would have done it.
And
myself.
The way my head works is very tactile, right? If I touch it, I've pretty much memorized it. So it kind of drives me nuts sometimes, but I also have a little pride in the fact that if I do your lights more than 1 year, if I do it twice, from then on, every time I drive by that house, I'll know exactly where the outlets are. I know exactly where the trouble spots are. I have it all mapped out in my head. So multiple times throughout the year, I'm driving, I've got over 200 clients. So I'm driving past these homes or these businesses, and it's just going through my head every time I see them. This is where the plugs are. They like their timer set from this time to this time. This is the trouble spot. Isn't that the geekiest? I'm like a total Christmas light geek because I think about it all year long. Oh, this lady really hates it when we stretch it from here to here. I think about that 6 inches that she hates. So I make
That is
sure
so
that 6
funny.
inches is perfect every time we go there. Or I've got one customer, every bulb has to be level. And
This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where I don't want to be the one that deals with that
Right.
stuff. And if you've got somebody that does this all the time, like changing the oil,
Yeah.
then I don't have to think about all those
Yeah.
little those
You get to
little
say, you do
nuances.
you. I'll keep doing my
Exactly.
work. You know, if you
Yeah.
fall, I'll feel terrible, but hey, have fun up there. See ya. And that's fine. I want to be
Yeah,
that guy.
exactly.
I want to be that guy that at 17 years, I've never fallen. I'm really good at making sure I stay put. That's kind of a big thing for me. Like, don't fall. Yeah, I get it. I don't want to. So I take it extremely serious. Stick at all costs. Stay up at all costs. Come down very slowly, because nobody wants the fast way down. So
Right. Yeah.
they hire guys like me.
That's awesome.
They relieve themselves of that stress. I take everything real serious about safety. I take things real serious about making it look good. And then you get to come home, the hero, right? You're like, hey, kids, look at the lights.
Check out the lights.
Flip the switch. And the kids are like, yay, that's
Nobody
so cool.
cares who put 'em up.
right? Yeah.
Doesn't have to be
Yeah.
dad that put
How
them
many
up.
how many people have in their cell phone light guy? That's me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've been met in the street. Hey, light guy. Like, yeah, that's me.
That's pretty awesome.
Right.
So, what do people do? So you're in the season now. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's started.
Yeah.
And you're in the process of getting, because we are in, which just blows me away. We are sitting in the middle of October right now. Halloween is fast approaching. Can't even believe this. But anyway, so you're in the middle of the season. What is it that people need to get a hold of you? So you do residential, you do business.
Yep.
And so what's the procedure here?
So if somebody wants to get an estimate, all they have to do is call or text me. So they call 435-215-5888 or text it.
That's basically straight to you.
That's my cell number.
Cell number.
If you're like, hey, you just cut me off in traffic, shoot, send it out. It's on my tailgate. So
Okay.
give me a call, shoot me a text. Then all I have to do is come out, look at the house, count up the footage. Once I know the linear footage, then I can give you an estimate. The first year, typically people buy the lights from me. So the first year it's lights and labor. And then after that, it's just the labor plus maybe a bulb here and there. Little maintenance stuff that adds up to just dollars after that. Then in January, I start taking them down. I always wait for my son's birthday. As soon as his birthday's over, January 2nd, then I go just as fast as I can, get them down. I typically don't give phone calls or texts when I'm bringing them down. I just bring them down. There are some customers that want to keep them up all through January or most of January, and I've got those in my notes. And I just bump them to the bottom of the line, and we just go for it. I do the businesses first, then I do all the HOAs second, and then I do all the free people of the southern state after that. And thus far, in 17 years, I've never had lights up on a house past January unless they've wanted it.
Specifically asked you
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
And
And
you-
I take a lot of pride in that because most Christmas light companies are still going through February, but I've had over 200 clients all down by January.
Okay. So real quick, let's just go over a couple quick things. The region that you cover, where are we talking about?
So I've got customers up in Pine Valley.
Okay.
I've got customers out in Springdale, like almost all
Okay.
of Springdale. If you go to Springdale, pretty much every business out there's mine. And then down to the Sun River.
Okay.
So those are the regions I hit.
Okay. So it's a big area.
Mm-hmm.
These are all the people that can get their Christmas lights. And then specifically, that's your cell phone. Do you, social media, website, how else do other people get a
Super
hold
easy.
of you?
Just like the logo, ST George Christmas Lights.
stgeorgechristmaslights.com.
Yep, everything. Facebook.com, email.
Okay.
It's all ST George Christmas Lights.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
tried to make it real easy for Google to find me.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. Nate, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm actually now I'm kind of pumped for Christmas.
It's a good thing.
It is awesome. I love when the lights go up.
Yeah.
I agree. It's so amazing.
Yeah, and it's like it's almost a competition, right? Like there's some neighborhoods you pull into, and they've got the permanent lights, and they're dancing and they're flashing, and then you've got the nice steady stream light bulbs.
Yeah.
They're just like, look, take a picture. It'll be the same. It looks great.
That's awesome.
So, I love it.
All right, Nate, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you again for joining us here at Success in the West. If you'd like to join us here in the studio, you can reach us on our Facebook page, Utah South Studios Facebook page, utahsouthstudios.com. We'd love to have you, and thanks again for joining us today.